Chapter 1. Wrong Room, Wrong Life. Emily Walker stumbled out of the bar at the Plaza Hotel, her bright red stilettos clicking against the marble floor. Her third, maybe fourth, margarita was making her head spin, but she still tried to maintain the confident facade of a 29-year-old creative director. In her hand was a shiny room key card she'd picked up at the bar after bumping into a guy in a suit and spilling his cocktail. Sorry, she had giggled, holding up the card like a trophy. The number on it, 1708, was barely legible under the chandelier light, but Emily didn't care. All she wanted was to find a bed before the floor became her best friend. The elevator dinged, and Emily wandered down the hallway on the 17th floor, humming an old Taylor Swift song, off-key. "Room 1708, where are you?" she muttered, running a hand through her tousled blonde hair. She stopped in front of a door, swiped the key, and the lock clicked open. "Detective Emily, mission accomplished," she declared, nearly tripping over the carpet edge. The room was dark, lit only by the city lights outside the window and the faint scent of cologne, sandalwood with a sharp, icy twist. Emily didn't notice. She kicked off her heels, tossed them somewhere, and collapsed onto the plush sofa. "Oh, heaven," she mumbled, eyes closed. Ryan Blackwood, sitting in an armchair near the window, a glass of whiskey in hand, tensed at the noise. He had just learned that a crucial business partner had canceled a meeting last minute, and he was drowning his irritation in a 30-year-old scotch. A stranger in a fiery red cocktail dress had just entered his suite, mumbling something about heaven and betraying margaritas. He raised an eyebrow, about to speak, but she was already stretched out on the sofa, her long legs draped over the armrest, completely unaware of where she was. "Hey, who are you?" he asked, voice deep and sharp, though laced with curiosity. Emily cracked one eye open, her messy hair covering half her face. She looked at him, a man in a charcoal suit, dark hair falling over his forehead, eyes piercing through her. "Me? I'm about to have the best sleep of my life," she replied, giving a dopey smile. "And you? Sitting in the dark like a vampire? Planning to suck my blood?" Ryan let out a deep, warm laugh. For the first time that night, there was something about this girl, her boldness maybe, or those sparkling, tipsy blue eyes, that made him reluctant to kick her out. "Care for a drink?" he asked, lifting the bottle. Emily tilted her head, considering, then shrugged. "If you promise you're not an actual vampire?" She staggered toward the glass table where Ryan sat. He poured whiskey into a fresh glass and handed it to her. "Aren't you scared you're in the wrong room?" he asked, eyes gleaming. Emily took a sip, winced at the burn, then chuckled. "Wrong room? Nah, I'm a navigation expert. This card..." She held it up, then abruptly fell silent, realizing it wasn't hers. It's mine, right?" Ryan smirked but decided not to call her out. "Sure it is," he teased. They started chatting. Light, silly conversation at first. Emily talked about the company party, complaining that her boss kept asking for groundbreaking ideas while giving her a graveyard budget. Ryan, deliberately hiding his identity, laughed and shared a story about being stood up by a partner, referring to the canceled meeting tonight. Somehow the conversation grew deeper. The alcohol loosened Emily's guard, and she admitted she once dreamed of being a painter, but now felt trapped by deadlines and PowerPoint slides as a creative director. "Maybe I'm just faking creativity," she said, voice tinged with sadness. Ryan looked at her, his gaze softening. "You're not faking anything," he said. "A faker wouldn't barge into a stranger's room and call him a vampire." Emily burst out laughing, spilling a bit of whiskey on her dress. "Oh no, this rented dress," she cried, then waved it off. "Hey, let it remember tonight." Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Is tonight that memorable?" She looked at him, her eyes twinkling. "Not yet, but you're making it interesting." The space between them began to shrink, a casual brush of hands as Ryan picked up his glass. A glance that lingered too long, and then, as if nudged by the alcohol and the night itself, they leaned closer. Emily inhaled the scent of his cologne, and Ryan felt the warmth of her breath. "You're not a vampire, right?" she whispered, half joking. "No," he replied hoarsely, "but I could bite." They laughed, and that laugh melted into a kiss. Slow at first, then urgent, as if they both knew it was a mistake. But neither could stop. That night in Suite 1708, they didn't just get the room wrong. They got their hearts wrong too. The next morning, sunlight from Manhattan pierced through the curtains, waking Emily. She opened her eyes, head pounding, and found herself in a king-size bed in a luxurious suite. Next to her was a man, completely naked, broad back, messy dark hair. "Oh God," she whispered, heart racing. She scrambled up, pulling the blanket over herself and scanning the room. Her dress lay crumpled on the floor, one heel stuck under a chair. She searched for her key card, her phone, only to realize a silver earring was missing. "Screw it," she muttered, throwing on her dress, barefoot and bolting for the door. In her rush, Emily nearly tripped over the hallway carpet. She dropped a shoe, had to turn back to grab it, only to meet the suspicious gaze of a hotel security guard. I forgot something," she stammered, face flaming, then dashed into the elevator. As the doors closed, she whispered to herself, "Emily Walker, what did you just do? And who the hell was that guy?" Ryan woke a few minutes later. The room was empty. He glanced at the sofa, where the mystery girl had collapsed last night, and smiled when he spotted a glinting silver earring on the floor. He picked it up, rolled it between his fingers. "That girl was something else," he murmured, pocketing the earring. He didn't know her name, but he had a feeling they'd meet again. After all, Manhattan has a strange way of guiding lost souls back to the right place. You're watching Soul Stories, where every tale whispers of love, healing, and hope. If you believe that even the smallest act of kindness can change a life, and that love often arrives when we least expect it, don't forget to subscribe and be part of our journey. Now stay with us. The story is just beginning. Chapter 2. A Reunion. 2 months had passed since that fateful night in Suite 1708, and Emily Walker had done her best to shove the memory into the deepest drawer of her mind, much like she shoved unpaid bills into the real ones. She told herself it was just a margarita-fueled mistake, one night of poor judgment not worth revisiting. But every time her fingers brushed the remaining silver earring, the only one she still had, her heart skipped a beat. Today, at the Manhattan headquarters of Blackwood Tech, there was no room for daydreaming. As the creative director of a top advertising firm, Emily was leading the biggest branding campaign of the year, reimagining Blackwood Tech, the tech giant, into a name that felt approachable yet elite. She had spent the entire week preparing sleek PowerPoint slides, polished delivery, and a sharp tagline: Blackwood Tech, connecting futures, touching hearts. The meeting room on the 45th floor looked like something out of a sci-fi film. Glass walls, a massive walnut table, and an 8K screen glowing with the Blackwood Tech logo. Emily stood before her team, navy blazer dress hugging her form, blonde hair tied in a sleek ponytail. Every inch the woman in charge. But the moment the doors opened and Ryan Blackwood walked in, her confidence burst like a soap bubble. Ryan, in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit, radiated the cold magnetism of a 34-year-old tech billionaire. His deep blue eyes scanned the room, pausing just a second too long on Emily. She felt it like a jolt of electricity down her spine. "Please, not him," she silently pleaded. But fate wasn't listening. Ryan took the head seat across from her and offered a knowing smirk, the kind that suggested he'd just uncovered a delightful little secret. "Ms. Walker, is it?" he said slowly, savoring each word like a sip of fine whiskey. "Let's begin. I'm very curious to hear your ideas." Emily took a deep breath, steadying her voice. "Thank you, Mr. Blackwood. We've prepared a strategy." She didn't get far. "Ms. Walker," he interrupted, eyes gleaming. "Have we met before? Your face looks very familiar." The room fell silent. Emily's colleagues exchanged curious glances. Her heart pounded, but she wasn't someone who crumbled under pressure. Tilting her head, she offered a sweet but razor-sharp smile. "I doubt it, Mr. Blackwood. I don't forget faces, unless they're unconscious." The room erupted in laughter. Even the notoriously serious marketing director of Blackwood Tech chuckled. Ryan raised a brow, clearly enjoying her comeback. "Interesting," he murmured, just loud enough for her to hear. "I'll remember that." Emily launched into the presentation, but Ryan's eyes never left her. He observed everything. How she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous, how her gestures seemed confident but rehearsed. Then his gaze caught the glint of a silver earring on her right ear. A memory flashed, the matching one sitting in a small wooden box on his desk. Emily, sensing his stare, instinctively touched her earring. Her face turned bright red as she realized what he was looking at. "Damn it," she cursed inwardly, just as her hand knocked over a full cup of Starbucks coffee, spilling it all over the stack of documents. "Starbucks, you traitor," she muttered, frantically reaching for napkins. A co-worker stifled a laugh, but Ryan didn't bother hiding his smirk. "You all right there, Ms. Walker?" he asked with mock concern. "Perfectly fine," she said, trying to maintain her poise while wishing the floor would swallow her whole. She pushed through the rest of the presentation, but every time she looked up, Ryan's gaze made the whole room feel like it had shrunk to just the two of them. The meeting ended with praise from the Blackwood tech team, but Emily knew Ryan hadn't been focused on the slides. As everyone began to file out, he lingered, pretending to check his phone. Emily, packing up her laptop, accidentally dropped a pen. She bent to pick it up, and when she straightened, Ryan was standing far closer than she'd expected. "You sure we haven't met?" he asked, voice low and dangerous. Emily swallowed, forcing composure. "I'm sure. I don't make a habit of random encounters." Ryan smirked. "Shame, I do." He walked away, but not before leaving behind a look that made Emily's pulse race. She exhaled in relief, thinking it was over. But when she turned back to the table, she found a fresh cup of coffee and a small note. "Watch out for Starbucks next time. RB." She groaned, half laughing. She wasn't sure whether to throw the coffee out the window or frame it as a trophy. That afternoon, Emily received an email from Ryan's assistant, requesting a one-on-one meeting to refine the concept. She muttered, "What game is he playing now?" But deep down, she couldn't deny the thrill of anticipation. She stepped into the small meeting room. Just the two of them. Ryan sat at the head of the table, staring at a message on his phone. From Victoria. "We need to talk. I'm in NY this week." He frowned, turned off the screen, and looked up. "You're 2 minutes late," he said, but not unkindly. "And you were counting the seconds, Mr. Blackwood," she shot back, taking the seat across from him. Ryan smiled, a genuine one this time, not his usual calculated smirk. "Only when it's someone worth waiting for." They dove into the campaign, but the conversation quickly turned into a clever sparring match. Emily challenged his suggestions, calling Blackwood Tech's old slogan as boring as an insurance ad. Ryan didn't get offended. He seemed intrigued. "You're bolder than I expected, Ms. Walker. But do you really understand your client?" "My client?" she asked, tilting her head. "You mean you, don't you?" Ryan didn't answer right away. He just stared at her, eyes hinting at something deeper. "Maybe," he finally said, "but I'm not an easy client to please." Emily laughed, the tension dissolving. "Lucky for you, I specialize in difficult clients." As the meeting wrapped up, Ryan stood and stepped closer than necessary to hand back a document. His fingers brushed hers. Both froze. "You might want to check your earring," he said softly. "Wouldn't want to lose the last one." Emily blushed, unsure how to respond. She left the room, heart pounding, wondering if she just stepped into a game she couldn't win. Meanwhile, Ryan remained seated. He opened the wooden box on his desk. The silver earring sparkled under the light. He turned it between his fingers and smiled. "Emily Walker," he murmured. "You're not getting away." Chapter 3. Tension on a knife's edge. Emily Walker had never imagined that being a creative director could feel like a psychological battlefield. 1 week after the initial meeting with Blackwood Tech, she felt like she was playing chess with Ryan Blackwood, and he was clearly holding the white pieces, always one move ahead. He requested private meetings almost daily, using seemingly legitimate excuses that reeked of ulterior motives. "We need to refine the slogan. I'd like to review the brand color palette. Or even, Ms. Walker, this idea needs a personal touch." Every time she walked into the conference room, Emily repeated to herself, "Just treat him like any other client. Don't think about Suite 1708. But Ryan's razor-sharp eyes and that infuriating half-smile made it nearly impossible to stay composed. Today at Blackwood Tech's HQ, Emily sat across from him in a small meeting room. Just the two of them and a screen filled with slides. She was presenting the latest updates on the campaign, trying her best to focus on graphs and data. But Ryan, as always, wouldn't leave her in peace. "Ms. Walker, do you think this shade of blue is seductive enough?" he asked, his voice low, lingering unnecessarily on the word seductive. Emily nearly choked on her coffee. "Seductive? This is a tech logo, not a perfume ad," she shot back, though the corners of her mouth betrayed a smirk. Ryan tilted his head, eyes gleaming. "Strange, because I find it very alluring." She gave him a pointed glare, heart pounding. "Mr. Blackwood, if it's a lure you want, I'd suggest a dash of red, much bolder." Ryan laughed, a rare, genuine sound that made Emily smile despite herself. But then her thoughts drifted to her mother, a woman who had once fallen for the wrong man and paid the price in scars that Emily still carried. She straightened her back, voice cooling. "We should stay focused on the campaign." Ryan raised a brow, sensing the shift, but didn't push. "Of course, Ms. Walker. You're the one in charge." The meeting ended, but Ryan wasn't done with her yet. As Emily made her way out, he called after her. "You forgot your pen." She turned and he handed it over, his fingers intentionally brushing against hers. A jolt of energy zipped through her. She quickly pulled back. "Thanks," she mumbled, escaping into the hallway, mentally screaming at herself to stay away from him. But Manhattan, with its skyscrapers and ironic timing, was never a place for clean getaways. That afternoon, Emily sought solace in the company pantry at Blackwood Tech, home to a top-tier espresso machine and a sacred box of free donuts. Humming an old pop song as she reached for the box, she felt a presence behind her. "You're off key," Ryan's teasing voice rumbled behind her. She jumped, yelping. "Are you a horror movie character or something?" The donut box slipped from her hands and a dozen sugar-coated treats rolled across the floor. Ryan folded his arms, laughing as he watched the chaos unfold. "Not a horror movie, but I could be your nightmare, Miss Walker." Flushing crimson, Emily knelt to pick up the donuts. "Do you always sneak up on people like this?" she muttered, clinging to her last shred of dignity. Ryan knelt beside her. As they both reached for the same donut, their fingers brushed. Emily looked up, and for a moment, his eyes weren't playful. They were deep, searching, as if trying to read her mind. "I don't sneak," he said quietly. "It's just hard not to notice you." Emily swallowed hard and scrambled to her feet. "I have a meeting," she blurted, even though her schedule was wide open. She turned to leave, but Ryan called after her. "You forgot this." He handed her a coffee from the machine, with a note scrawled on the cup. "Next time, check the room number. RB." Emily stared at the cup, half annoyed, half amused. "Are you obsessed with room numbers or something?" she asked, unable to hide her smile. Ryan shrugged. "I just like reminders." She glared at him, but gripped the coffee cup a little tighter, like it was something worth holding on to. That night, Emily sat in her small Upper West Side apartment, staring at the now cold coffee. She told herself to keep her distance from Ryan. He was a billionaire, a client, and probably a woman magnet with no shortage of admirers. She refused to become her mother, a woman who gave everything for a man who broke her heart. But every time she thought of Ryan, his gaze, his voice, that ridiculous note on her coffee, she felt a pull she couldn't explain. Across town in his midtown penthouse, Ryan sat by the window, looking out over Manhattan's glowing skyline. On the table beside him sat the silver earring shimmering under the lamplight. He twirled it between his fingers, smiling as he recalled Emily dropping the donuts and screaming in the pantry. She wasn't like the other women he'd known. No airs, no agendas, just raw spirit and fierce independence. But he'd also sensed the walls behind her smile, as if she were running from something. "What game are you playing, Emily Walker?" he murmured. His phone lit up with a text from Victoria. "Ryan, I need to see you. The past isn't finished." He frowned, deleted the message without replying. Victoria was the past, a relationship arranged by PR and expectations, never heart. The only person who'd ever shaken his composure was the woman who stumbled into the wrong room and dropped donuts at his feet. The next morning, Emily walked into Blackwood Tech determined to keep her distance. But Ryan, seemingly reading her mind, requested yet another meeting. This time he challenged every idea she presented, not to reject them, but to keep her engaged longer. "Ms. Walker, how do you think the customer will feel about this campaign?" he asked, eyes locked on hers. Emily, irritated but unwilling to back down, replied, "They'll love it, unless they're as difficult as someone I know." Ryan chuckled, and once again, they spiraled into a flirty verbal sparring match. When the meeting ended, Emily was gathering her things when Ryan suddenly stood and stepped closer. "You dropped this that night, didn't you?" he asked, holding out the sparkling silver earring between his fingers. Emily froze, her heart slamming in her chest. "You kept it," she whispered, voice trembling. She reached for it, but just before her fingers touched it, Ryan smirked and slipped it into his vest pocket. "Not yet," he said, eyes gleaming with mischief. "I think it's safer with me, until you check the right room number." Emily flushed, torn between outrage and the strange flutter in her chest. "You are unbearable," she muttered, turning to leave. But the smile tugging at her lips betrayed her. Ryan watched her go, a grin slowly spreading across his face. "Emily Walker," he murmured, "this game is only getting started." Chapter 4: Emotional Boundaries. Emily Walker had tried to build an invisible wall between herself and Ryan Blackwood, but with each passing day, that wall felt more like a napkin in a Manhattan rainstorm, fragile, soaked, and quickly disappearing. After the string of provocative private meetings and that disastrous donut encounter in the pantry, she'd sworn to keep her distance. Ryan wasn't just a client. He was a danger, armed with piercing blue eyes that could melt any resolve, and a half-smile that made her want to slap him, or worse. But Blackwood Tech, with its gleaming glass hallways and the constant scent of coffee, seemed hell-bent on pushing them together. It was Friday night. Emily was working late at Blackwood Tech headquarters, trying to finalize a presentation. The office was nearly empty, lit only by dim neon panels and the soft hum of the air conditioning. She rubbed her eyes and checked the clock. 9:45 p.m. "I need coffee or a 3-day nap," she muttered, standing and grabbing her laptop like a shield. She stepped into the elevator and hit the ground floor button. Just as the doors were about to close, a hand slipped through the gap, reopening them. Ryan Blackwood stepped in, his charcoal suit slightly rumpled, dark hair falling over his forehead, looking like he'd just come out of a marathon meeting. "Ms. Walker," he said, his voice low and smooth, eyes glinting under the elevator lights. "Working this late. Are you trying to take over my company?" Emily glared, though the corners of her lips curved upward. "Mr. Blackwood, if I were planning a heist, I'd aim for something more exciting, like your whiskey collection." Ryan laughed and leaned against the elevator wall, hands in his pockets. "You know about my whiskey? I'm impressed." Emily shrugged, trying to sound casual, even as her heart pounded. "Just a guess. Tech billionaires tend to have expensive tastes, don't they?" She turned away, pretending the elevator buttons were suddenly fascinating, but the confined space, his lingering cologne, sandalwood and something darker, and the silence brimming with tension made it nearly impossible to maintain her icy front. The elevator dinged but didn't stop at the lobby. A minor glitch brought it to a halt between the 32nd and 33rd floors, lights flickering. Emily frowned and hit the emergency button. "Great. Now I'm stuck with you," she muttered. Ryan raised an eyebrow, stepping a little closer. "Is being stuck with me that terrible?" he asked, his voice low, almost a whisper. Emily looked up and met his gaze. Deep, magnetic, like he was trying to pull her into a world she wasn't sure she wanted to enter. She instinctively stepped back until her spine hit the cold elevator wall. "Don't come any closer," she said, but even she didn't believe her voice. Ryan didn't move, but he didn't look away either. "Why are you always running, Emily?" he asked, using her first name for the first time without the formality. Hearing her name on his lips felt like an invitation, and the wall she'd tried so hard to keep intact trembled. "I'm not running," she said, voice quivering. "I just don't like confusion." "Confusion?" Ryan tilted his head, eyes sparkling. You mean like stepping into Suite 1708? Emily flushed, wishing the elevator would swallow her whole. You really love bringing that up, don't you? Ryan stepped closer, just inches away now. Because it wasn't a mistake, he said, voice husky. You walked into my room, and I didn't want you to leave. The air inside the elevator thickened, as if all the oxygen had vanished. Ryan reached out, his fingers grazing the silver earring on her ear, never touching skin, but close enough to make her shiver. You still wear it, he murmured, eyes locked on hers. Emily swallowed hard. The world seemed to shrink until it was just the two of them. She wanted to push him away, to run, but her body refused to move. Ryan leaned in, closer, closer, until she could feel his breath on her lips. They almost kissed, just millimeters apart. But then a memory flashed through Emily's mind. Her mother crying alone in their tiny apartment, whispering about a man who had a family, about a love that left scars. That pain had shaped Emily's every caution. She snapped back to reality, placing her hand on Ryan's chest and gently pushing him away. No, she whispered, voice trembling. I can't. Ryan froze, pain flickering across his face, but he didn't press. He stepped back, taking a deep breath. All right, he said, calm but tightly controlled. I won't force you. The elevator dinged again. It resumed moving and opened at the lobby. Emily bolted out, heart pounding like a war drum. She stepped into the chilly Manhattan night, letting the wind cool her burning skin. I'm not my mother, she whispered, but her voice trembled with doubt. Her fingers brushed the earring, wondering if she was really running from Ryan or from her own feelings. Meanwhile, Ryan remained in the elevator, gripping the railing tightly. Rejection wasn't something he was used to, not out of arrogance, but because he always knew what he wanted, and he usually got it. But Emily, with her fire and her hidden wounds, had thrown him off balance. He pulled the matching earring from his pocket and twirled it under the lights. You're driving me crazy, Emily Walker, he muttered, smiling bitterly. His phone lit up with a message from Victoria. Saw you in Forbes. Still as irresistible as ever. See me, Ryan. He stared at the message for a moment, then deleted it without hesitation. Victoria belonged to a life he left behind. All surface, no substance. But Emily, she was a riddle he couldn't stop solving. The next day, Emily walked into Blackwood Tech acting as normal as possible. But every time she spotted Ryan from a distance, her heart went wild. He didn't call her in for a meeting, didn't flirt, didn't tease, just nodded politely with unreadable eyes. That silence unnerved her more than all the suggestive remarks combined. During her break, she wandered into the pantry. On the table sat a coffee cup. No playful message, just her name scribbled in slightly crooked handwriting. Emily. She knew it was from him. She thought about throwing it away, but instead she held it tighter, took a sip, and smiled without meaning to. What she didn't see was Ryan watching from down the hall, through the glass door. His eyes held quiet determination. He could feel the wall she'd built, but he also knew that walls, no matter how strong, always had a door, and he intended to find it, not Suite 1708, but the door to her heart. Still following the story? If this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home, to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. Chapter 5. The Truth Left Unspoken. Emily Walker had thought she could control her heart, but after the almost kiss in the elevator, she felt like she was walking a tightrope, teetering between logic and emotion. Ryan Blackwood, with his piercing gaze and cryptic remarks, was shaking her balance. She tried to keep her distance, avoiding one-on-one meetings and even the pantry, where she'd once famously dropped a dozen donuts in front of him. But Manhattan, with its crowded streets and cruel coincidences, had a way of making sure she couldn't hide forever. On Monday, Emily sat in her small office at the advertising agency, scrolling through Instagram during her lunch break. She normally avoided social media, but that day a suggested post hit her like a punch to the chest. A post from a major fashion magazine featured Ryan Blackwood, in a sleek black tuxedo, standing beside a tall, stunning brunette with glossy hair and a picture-perfect smile. The caption read, "Sweet memories, Ryan Blackwood in Victoria Lane at last year's charity gala. Manhattan's golden couple. Yush, Ryan and Victoria, TBT. Beneath it, the hashtag number sign wedding rumors blazed in bold, and the comments section was flooded with speculation. Are they getting married? Victoria is a queen. Ryan's so lucky. Emily froze, her fingers stiff against the screen. Victoria Lane, the supermodel, the face of luxury brands, and apparently Ryan's fiancé. A chill swept through her chest like someone had doused her in cold water. Engaged, she whispered, voice trembling. The image of her mother resurfaced. Those nights of silent sobbing over a man who had promised love but never truly belonged to her. Emily clenched her phone, whispering to herself, I'm not my mother, and I won't be the other woman. She stood abruptly, slammed her laptop shut, and made a decision to cut Ryan off completely. For the next 2 days, she delegated everything related to Blackwood Tech to her coworkers, citing a packed schedule. When Ryan emailed requesting a private meeting, she responded curtly, I'll have someone else attend. When she saw him in the hallway, she turned quickly, feigning busyness on her phone. But every time she caught a glimpse of him, tall, composed in his charcoal suit, eyes scanning as if searching for her heart ached. Meanwhile, Ryan noticed. Emily no longer met his teasing with her trademark sass. No bold glares, no sharp comebacks, only distance. She avoided him like a storm. He kept his composure on the outside, but inside he was confused and hurt. He thought they were getting closer, that her walls were finally coming down. But now she had built a taller, colder one, and he had no idea why. On Thursday, Ryan decided to confront it. He knew Emily would be working late, preparing for the big presentation for Blackwood Tech. He waited in the 45th floor conference room, where she often did her final checks. When Emily walked in, clutching her laptop and a coffee, she stopped in her tracks at the sight of him sitting at the head of the table, his eyes serious. Ms. Walker, he said quietly, we need to talk. Emily swallowed hard, placing her laptop down like a shield. Mr. Blackwood, I'm busy. If this is about the campaign, I'll send a report. It's not about the campaign. Ryan stood and stepped closer. It's about you. Why are you avoiding me? Emily backed away, hitting the edge of the table. I'm not avoiding, she said, voice unconvincing. I'm just doing my job. Ryan looked at her, his eyes sharp but pained. Emily, if I did something wrong, tell me, but don't shut me out like this. His sincerity, so unguarded, unsettled her. She wanted to believe him, to let her feelings lead for once, but the Instagram post haunted her. She took a deep breath, her voice suddenly cold. You want to know? Fine. I saw the post about you and Victoria, your fiancé. She looked him straight in the eye. I don't want to be the woman who ruins someone else's life, Ryan. I'm not that person. Ryan looked stunned, as if she'd slapped him. Victoria? He echoed, clearly caught off guard. He took another step forward, trying to stay calm. Emily, listen to me. I called off that engagement. The night you walked into Suite 1708. There is no fiancé. But Emily, blinded by fear and the trauma of her past, cut him off. Don't, she said sharply. Don't feed me promises. I've watched my mother fall apart over words like that. I won't make the same mistake. Tears shimmered in her eyes as she turned and rushed out of the room. Ryan stood there, fists clenched, feeling like he'd just lost something precious. He wanted to run after her, to shout that she'd misunderstood everything, that Victoria was part of a past he no longer wanted. But her words, I won't be the other woman, cut deeper than anything else, because in her eyes, he wasn't someone she could trust. That night, Emily curled up in her small Upper West Side apartment, hugging a pillow and staring at the silver earring on her table. She had taken it off, as if removing it could erase the mistake she thought she'd made. Her phone buzzed, a notification from Instagram. A friend had tagged her in another post under number Ryan and Victoria, with the caption, They're gorgeous, but rumor has it they've split. Emily turned off her phone, not wanting to read more. She told herself she did the right thing. So why did it hurt so much? At the same time, Ryan sat in his midtown penthouse, a glass of whiskey in hand, staring down at the Manhattan skyline. On the table beside him, Emily's silver earring glinted in the low light, a promise unspoken. He opened Instagram, found the post she must have seen, and frowned at the hashtag, #weddingrumors. Victoria, he muttered, realizing she might be behind this. He wanted to call Emily to explain everything, but her words echoed in his mind. I don't need empty promises. He gripped the whiskey tighter, wondering if there was any way left to make her believe him again. The next day at Blackwood Tech, Emily showed up looking pale but professional. She avoided Ryan's gaze during the group meeting, burying herself in slides like they were her lifeline. Ryan, though still composed on the outside, couldn't mask the pain in his eyes. When the meeting ended, he left a small note on her desk. Just one line. I'm not who you think I am, RB. Emily stared at the note, her hands trembling. She folded it and slipped it into her pocket. She wanted to believe him, but fear had locked her heart behind a door she wasn't ready to open. From the end of the hallway, Ryan watched her, his gaze unwavering, full of quiet determination. He knew she was running, but he also knew, no matter how many walls she built, he would find a way to tear them down. All he needed was one chance to speak the truth. Chapter 6, The X-Drama. Emily Walker stepped into the Metropolitan Museum of Art feeling like she was walking into a battlefield. Tonight's launch event for Blackwood Tech's new campaign was the biggest stage she'd ever stood on. Hundreds of guests, from tech journalists to Instagram influencers. She had spent the past week perfecting every detail, from the 4K promotional video to the stage lighting, to make sure everything was flawless. But deep down, she knew it wasn't just the campaign she was nervous about. Ryan Blackwood would be there. And after days of avoiding him, she wasn't sure she was ready to face those piercing blue eyes again. She wore a sleek black silk dress, her blonde hair in a low knot, and her silver earrings sparkling. She had put them back on, a reminder that she was still herself, even if her heart was in chaos. The Met shimmered with crystal chandeliers and massive Blackwood Tech banners, the company's logo spinning across giant LED screens. Emily moved through the crowd, checking lighting cues, pretending to be busy so she wouldn't have to think about Ryan. But then she heard the murmurs from a group of nearby journalists. Victoria Lane just arrived. Aren't she and Ryan Blackwood still Manhattan's power couple? Emily froze and turned. Victoria Lane, tall, poised like a Greek goddess, walked in wearing a blazing red gown, her brown hair glistening under the lights. She smiled at the crowd and waved like a movie star. Emily's stomach twisted. She had tried to convince herself that the Instagram post with hashtag Ryan and Victoria was just gossip, that Ryan had told the truth when he said the engagement was off. But seeing Victoria here, radiant and confident, brought every doubt rushing back. Emily stepped behind a stage curtain, trying to steady her breath. I don't care, she whispered to herself, though her voice trembled. She touched her earring, reminding herself to focus, to be strong. Then came applause, and Ryan appeared on stage. He wore a tailored black suit, cold and magnetic as ever. His deep voice echoed across the museum. Blackwood Tech isn't just about technology, it's about connection, about finding the unexpected in life. As he spoke, his eyes scanned the crowd, and for a fleeting moment, they landed on Emily, half hidden behind the curtain. Her heart skipped. She turned away. After the speech, Ryan stepped down and was immediately surrounded by reporters and guests. Emily stayed in a far corner, adjusting sound levels with the tech crew, doing her best to not look his way. But then Victoria made her move. She walked straight up to Ryan, right in front of the cameras, and wrapped her arms around his neck, giving him a warm, intimate hug. Flashes exploded. Guests murmured. The air buzzed. Emily, still holding the control board, felt her hands begin to shake. Her face went blank, like the colors in the room had drained away. She watched, waiting for Ryan to push Victoria away, to show some sign she hadn't been wrong about him. But the moment dragged on, just a few seconds, but enough to shatter hope. She turned and ran, blinking back tears, leaving the lights and the crowd behind. She raced through the lobby, tripping slightly on the edge of a rug, and didn't stop until she reached the museum steps, where the cold Manhattan wind slapped her cheeks. Stupid Emily, she whispered, hugging herself. You really thought he was different? Inside the Met, Ryan gently pulled Victoria's arms off him, his eyes like ice. "Cut the act, Victoria," he said sharply, loud enough for a few nearby reporters to hear. "We ended things 2 months ago. You know that." Victoria kept smiling, but her eyes flickered. "Ryan, don't make a scene in front of the press," she murmured. But Ryan had already turned away. He scanned the room for Emily. She was gone. His chest tightened. He knew Victoria had staged the hug. She was always good at playing the media. And he knew, deeply, that Emily must have seen. He pushed through the crowd, searching the stage area, the tech booth, only to find her control board abandoned. One of the crew mumbled, "Ms. Walker ran out, looked upset." Ryan bolted for the lobby, out onto the museum steps, but Emily had already disappeared into the blur of Manhattan. That night, Emily curled up on the couch in her Upper West Side apartment, her phone shut off to block notifications. She took off her silver earring and flung it onto the table like it was cursed. The image of Victoria's arms around Ryan haunted her, alongside memories of her mother staring into mirrors, wondering where she went wrong. "I won't be that woman," Emily whispered, but tears streamed down her face. Across the city, Ryan sat in his car, parked near Emily's building, her address pulled from the project files. He stared at her darkened window, unable to gather the courage to knock. He pulled the earring from his pocket, turning it slowly between his fingers. "You didn't even give me a chance, Emily," he muttered, bitterness in his voice. He knew Victoria had come to cause trouble. It was her favorite game. But what hurt most was that Emily hadn't stayed to hear him out. His phone buzzed. A message from Victoria. "You mad?" "It was just a hug, Ryan, just for the media." He deleted it instantly. He didn't care about Victoria. He didn't care about the press. He only cared about the woman who ran from him. Again. The next day, Emily showed up to work pale and quiet, forcing herself to look normal. She overheard her co-workers whispering, "Victoria and Ryan are on every news outlet. That hug was wild." Emily clenched her fists, staring into her laptop to keep from crying. Later, during her break, she went into the pantry. There was a coffee cup waiting on the counter. No note, just her name, Emily. She knew it was from Ryan. This time, she poured it down the sink, as if she were pouring out every emotion she'd ever felt for him. From his office window, Ryan watched her walk down the hallway. He wanted to run after her, to explain, but the look she gave him last night still burned in his mind. Cold, shuddered. He clutched the earring in his pocket, whispering a silent promise to himself. "I'll fix this." But deep down, he feared the door had closed for good. Not Suite 1708-, but the door to her heart. Chapter 7. Running Away. Emily Walker had always thought she was strong enough to handle anything, from impossible deadlines to Ryan Blackwood's dangerously flirtatious gaze. But after that night at the Met, after watching Victoria Lane wrap her arms around Ryan in front of a sea of flashing cameras, every wall she'd built to protect her heart came crashing down. She couldn't stand the thought of becoming her mother, loving a man who didn't belong to her, only to be left shattered. Manhattan, with its skyscrapers and memories of Suite 1708, suddenly felt like a gilded cage of pain. The morning after the event, Emily walked into Blackwood Tech with a single purpose: to end everything. She drafted a short email, resigning from the project and requesting indefinite leave. But just before hitting send, a message from Ryan popped up on her screen. "Meet me, just 5 minutes. Conference room 45. She hesitated, thumb hovering. Then she clenched her jaw. "End it clearly," she told herself, stepping into the elevator. Ryan was waiting inside, his eyes serious but shadowed with worry. "Emily, last night," he began. She cut him off, voice cold. "Don't explain. I saw it all. You and Victoria, in front of everyone. What did you think I was, Ryan? A distraction while you waited for your wedding?" Ryan froze, stepping toward her. "You're wrong. Victoria and I ended long ago. Last night was her stunt, and I made it clear." "I don't want to hear it," Emily said, tears threatening. "I'm not my mother, Ryan. I won't let you make me the other woman." She turned to leave, but he reached for her wrist, voice hoarse. "Emily, please, just believe me." She pulled away, eyes blazing. "Believe you? I already made one mistake walking into the wrong room, Ryan. I'm not about to spend my whole life getting it wrong. And then she ran, leaving Ryan alone, arms still outstretched as if trying to hold on to something already gone. He clenched the silver earring in his pocket, feeling like he'd just lost the most precious thing in his life. 3 days later, Emily sat on a small bus leaving Manhattan for Vermont. She had reached out to a nonprofit in Burlington, an arts program for kids that needed volunteer teachers. It was her escape, her chance to live quietly, away from the city lights and the shadow of Ryan Blackwood. She packed light, a small suitcase, a few clothes, and a box of watercolor paints, the remnants of a dream she had buried long ago. She left the silver earring behind in her apartment, like shedding a curse she refused to carry with her. In Vermont, Emily rented a tiny cabin near Lake Champlain. The air was crisp, the birdsong gentle, and the stillness helped soothe the turmoil in her heart. She taught painting at a local community center, guiding children as they painted green fields and starry skies. They called her Miss Emily the Funny, because she told ridiculous jokes just to make them laugh. But every evening when she returned to her cabin, the silence grew loud. One night she painted a soft, shadowy room, Manhattan lights glowing faintly through a window. It looked too much like Suite 1708. Staring at it, she whispered, "You're a fool, Emily." Mia, her best friend, called from Manhattan. "You really ditched a billionaire like expired sushi." "Respect," she joked, sipping coffee. Emily laughed, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. "He wasn't mine, Mia. He had someone else." Mia frowned. "Someone else?" "Girl, I heard Victoria got shut down hard by Ryan at the Met. Gossip rags say she left fuming." Emily froze but shook her head. "Tabloids are trash. I don't care anymore." Mia sighed. "You don't care, or you're just scared to face your own heart?" The question haunted Emily for days. She tried to focus on her students' drawings, but Ryan's face, his hurt expression as she walked away, kept replaying in her mind. She wondered, had she been wrong? But fear of repeating her mother's tragedy held her captive. Back in Manhattan, Ryan worked like a machine, but his mind wasn't in the office. He no longer called for meetings, no more coffee cups with sly messages. Instead, he quietly followed Emily's updates, public posts from the nonprofit in Vermont. One showed her surrounded by smiling children, paint on her hands and cheeks. "She looks happy," he muttered, though bitterness laced his voice. Every night, Ryan sat in his penthouse overlooking the city lights. On his desk, her silver earring gleamed, a silent memory of the night they met. He turned it between his fingers, wondering if she still kept the other one. He opened Instagram and saw a new post. Emily teaching an outdoor painting class, her messy blonde hair catching the wind. He smiled, but it faded fast. "You really ran far, Emily," he murmured. His phone lit up. Another message from Victoria. "Ryan, I'm sorry about the Met. Can we talk? Let's try again." He deleted it without blinking. Victoria was a mistake he'd never repeat. But Emily, she was the one he couldn't let go. He opened his laptop, typed Burlington, Vermont, and stared at the screen. Then he closed it. She needs time, he told himself, even as every part of him wanted to get on a plane right that second. One evening, Emily sat by Lake Champlain, watching moonlight dance on the water. She unlocked her phone, scrolling mindlessly, until she stumbled upon a Blackwood tech post. Ryan speaking at a tech summit. He looked composed, powerful, but something was missing from his eyes, the spark she once saw. She touched the screen, her fingers trembling, then turned it off. "You have to forget him, Emily," she whispered, but even she didn't believe her own voice. Back inside the cabin, she pulled out her watercolors. She painted a door. Faint, shadowed. The number 1708 barely visible, like a whisper. She stared at the painting, tears sliding down her cheeks. She had run from Manhattan, run from Ryan, but she couldn't outrun herself. Because somewhere deep inside her, she knew. What she left behind wasn't in a hotel suite. It was in his eyes when he begged her to believe. Chapter 8, Rumors and Shadows. Emily Walker had thought Vermont would be her refuge, a quiet place where watercolor paints and children's laughter could wash away the memory of Ryan Blackwood. But just 2 weeks after she left Manhattan, the city's darkness found her again. this time in the form of a ruthless media storm. Sitting in her tiny cabin by Lake Champlain, Emily checked her emails, only to be stopped cold by a push notification from Instagram. A gossip site had posted an article titled, "The Other Woman? Inside the Love Triangle Between Blackwood Tech's CEO and Supermodel Victoria Lane." Attached were photos from the Met Gala, one of Ryan and Victoria embracing, and a blurry shot of Emily leaving the event, her pale face captured mid-step. The caption read, "Creative Director Emily Walker, the alleged homewrecker of Manhattan's golden couple." The post spread like wildfire. Blackwood scandal trended on X. Thousands of comments flooded in. "Who is this Emily chick? Victoria deserves better." Emily stared, numb, as she scrolled through more posts, paparazzi shots of her entering Blackwood Tech, even one of her painting with children in Vermont. "Guilt retreat?" one cruel caption read. Her hands shook. She threw her phone down, her breath shallow. "Who did this?" she whispered, though deep down she already knew the name. Victoria Lane. Back in Manhattan, Ryan Blackwood was in the middle of a meeting with his PR team when his assistant Claire rushed in, her face pale. "Mr. Blackwood," she said, breathless, "you need to see this." She handed him a tablet showing the scandal post. Ryan's jaw clenched as he read. Then he saw the photo of Emily, caught off guard, vulnerable, leaving the Met with heartbreak etched across her face. His hands curled into fists. "Who's behind this?" he asked, voice like steel. Claire shook her head. "We're still investigating, but it looks coordinated. Hired paparazzi, insider leaks, very tight-lipped." Ryan didn't need confirmation. He knew it was Victoria. The hug at the Met had been her move. This was her checkmate. He opened Instagram. A new message from her. "Ryan, I didn't think it would get this far. Let's meet to talk?" He deleted it without replying. He didn't care about Victoria. He cared about Emily, and the hell he had unknowingly dragged her into. In Vermont, Emily couldn't sit still. She called Mia, her best friend back in Manhattan. "Mia, what's happening? Who leaked this?" Mia, sipping coffee in a cozy cafe, sighed. "Babe, my money's on Victoria. Ryan embarrassed her at the Met, and now she's out for revenge. But don't let this garbage destroy you." "Destroy me?" Emily said bitterly. "They're calling me the other woman, Mia, just like they did to my mom." She couldn't hold it in any longer. She grabbed her phone, found Ryan's number, and called. He answered immediately. "Emily, I was just about to call you." But her voice was already trembling with fury. "Did you use me, Ryan? Was I just a pawn to piss off your ex or boost your PR? I'm not your plaything." Ryan froze. The words hit like a blow. "Emily, no. I swear I didn't know this would happen. I'm trying to find out who—" "Don't swear," she snapped. "I made one mistake walking into your room. I won't make another." She hung up. Tears fell, hot and silent. Ryan stood in his office, the dial tone still ringing in his ear. Her voice, "I'm not your plaything," echoed in his chest like a wound. He turned to Claire. "Find out who leaked this. Now hire a private team if you have to." Claire nodded and left. Ryan opened his desk drawer. He pulled out the silver earring, the one she'd left behind, and rolled it between his fingers. "You don't believe me, Emily," he murmured, "but I'll prove you're wrong." For the next 2 days, Ryan barely slept. He hired one of the top cybersecurity firms in New York and tasked them with tracing the origins of the smear campaign. The investigators followed a trail of encrypted payments that led to a small PR firm in Los Angeles, a firm that had previously worked with Victoria Lane. A leaked email confirmed it. "Push the story, blow it up. I want her gone." VL, Ryan's knuckles whitened. "You've gone too far this time, Victoria." He called his legal team, demanding they prepare to file suit if necessary. But first, he needed to clear Emily's name. He reached out to major news outlets, providing hard evidence that his relationship with Victoria had ended 2 months earlier, that the Blackwood scandal was a deliberate act of sabotage. But Ryan knew it wouldn't be enough. Emily was hurt, and fixing this would take more than facts. In Vermont, Emily kept teaching her art class, but whispers from parents and curious glances made her anxious. A child asked innocently, "Miss Emily, are you famous? I saw you on the internet." Emily smiled tightly and changed the subject. But inside, her heart felt heavy. She avoided social media until Mia texted, "He's cleaning it all up. Ryan hired investigators. He's fighting back for you. You should listen." Emily didn't reply. She wanted to believe him, but the fear of being used still wrapped itself around her like a second skin. That evening, Emily sat by the lake, painting another picture. This time it was a door, number 1708 faintly visible in the shadows. She stared at the image, tears sliding down her face. "I ran," she whispered, "but did I ever really escape?" Her fingers brushed the hollow spot beneath her ear, where the earring used to be. She wondered if Ryan still had the other one. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, Ryan sat in his penthouse, staring out over the city. On the table beside him, the silver earring sparkled under warm light. He opened his laptop and checked the latest post from the Vermont organization. Emily, surrounded by kids, laughing, but her eyes held a sadness he knew too well. He closed the laptop, gripping the earring tight. "I'll bring you back, Emily," he whispered. "Not for me, for you. You deserve the truth." He called Claire. "Schedule a press conference," he said, voice like steel. "I'm going public. With everything. Victoria, the scandal, Emily, no more shadows." Claire's voice came through the line. "And if Ms. Walker doesn't watch?" Ryan paused, then answered softly, "She will. I believe in her." He looked at the earring and gave a bitter smile. Suite 1708 might have been a mistake, but Emily wasn't, and he wouldn't let her run forever. Chapter 9. The Press Conference of the Heart. Emily Walker sat in her tiny cabin in Vermont, firelight flickering against the watercolor painting she'd made the week before. A blurry door with the number 1708. She had tried to rebuild peace here, pouring herself into teaching art and laughing with children. But the storm of Blackwood scandal followed her like a shadow. She hadn't opened Instagram or X in days. The cruel comments calling her the other woman had driven her into silence. But that morning, a message from Mia popped up. "EM, turn on the live stream now! Ryan's holding a press conference. You have to watch this." Emily hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. She wanted to forget Ryan Blackwood, his eyes, his teasing coffee cups, the night in Suite 1708. But deep down, beneath all the fear, she still craved the truth. With a shaky breath, she opened her laptop and searched for the Blackwood Tech livestream. The feed loaded to show Ryan standing at a podium in a packed hall in Manhattan. Gray suit, steely gaze, 1,000 cameras flashing. He cleared his throat and his deep voice echoed through her small cabin. "I'm here to address the rumors circulating about my personal life," he began, his eyes scanning the crowd. "My engagement to Victoria Lane ended months ago, long before any mention of the Blackwood scandal. The rumors of a third woman are entirely false, spread by those trying to manipulate the media." Emily clenched her fists, her heart pounding. She wanted to believe him, but her wounds hadn't healed. Then Ryan's voice softened, like he wasn't speaking to the crowd anymore, but to someone far away. "There was someone who walked into the wrong room one night, a night I didn't expect, but will never forget. She thought it was a mistake, but to me, it was the first time I ever felt I wasn't lost." He looked directly at the camera, as if he knew. "As for the rumors, she's not the other woman. She's the only woman I want to stay." Emily froze, and then the tears came. The words struck her straight through the heart. She saw flashes of that night, the way she called him a vampire, the way they laughed over whiskey, the way time stopped when they kissed. She covered her mouth, sobbing, not from pain this time, but from the slow realization she had been wrong. She had run when he had never let go. Ryan ended the press conference with a single quiet sentence. "I hope she hears this, and I hope she gives me a chance to make things right." Applause broke out, but Emily didn't hear it. She closed the laptop, sitting in silence, tears still falling. "I was wrong, Ryan," she whispered, touching the hollow at her neck where the earring used to be. She wanted to call him. She wanted to say sorry, but fear still held her back. In Manhattan, Ryan stepped down from the stage, hope and anxiety battling in his chest. He didn't know if Emily had seen the live stream, didn't know if she believed him. Claire, his assistant, approached with a phone in hand. "Mr. Blackwood, the press is going wild. They want a follow-up interview." Ryan shook his head. "Number, I've said enough." He pulled a small envelope from his coat pocket, a handwritten letter and a silver earring. "Send this to Vermont," he said quietly, handing her Emily's address. Claire nodded gently. "She'll understand, sir." That evening, Ryan sat in his penthouse, staring out at the Manhattan skyline. He opened Instagram. A new post from the Vermont nonprofit appeared. Emily by Lake Champlain, holding a child's painting. She was smiling, but her eyes were distant. Ryan smiled bitterly. He wondered if the letter would reach her in time. "She was the right person, Emily," he whispered, fingers brushing the now empty drawer where her earring used to rest. 3 days later, Emily received a letter. She stood at her cabin door, breath caught in her throat as she unfolded the note. A silver earring slipped out into her palm. Ryan's handwriting was sharp but full of emotion. "You walked into the wrong room, but you were the right person. Emily clutched the earring, her eyes filling again. She remembered the way he'd looked at her in the elevator, the note he left after the meeting, his voice during the live stream. She put the earring on, looked at herself in the mirror, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled, really smiled. She called Mia, voice trembling. "Mia, I think I need to go back." Mia squealed with laughter. "Finally! Took you long enough. Go, Em. Don't let your billionaire wait." Emily laughed too, relief washing over her like sunrise after a storm. She looked at the painting on her wall, the one of door 1708, and she whispered, "This time I won't get it wrong." In Manhattan, Ryan buried himself in work, but his thoughts stayed in Vermont. He checked his inbox, nothing from Emily. Claire entered, beaming. "The letter arrived. Ms. Walker received it." Ryan's heart jumped. "How did she react?" Claire shrugged. "I don't know, but I'd bet anything. She's thinking about you." Ryan finally smiled. For the first time in weeks, he didn't feel the weight of the world. He opened the drawer where the earring once lay. It was empty now, but the emptiness didn't hurt. It meant she had it. It meant she still held a piece of him. He stood walking to the window overlooking the city. Somewhere out there, Emily was looking at the same sky. And this time, he believed she wouldn't run anymore. Suite 1708 might have been a mistake, but his letter wasn't, and he prayed it had opened the door she once closed. You're watching Soul Stories, exclusive to our channel. If you're still with us, drop a comment. We read and cherish them all. Subscribe to support more heartfelt, original stories. Thanks for being part of the Soul Stories family. Chapter 10, Suite 1708, No More Mistakes. Emily Walker stood before the mirror in her small Upper West Side apartment, the silver earrings catching the glow of the overhead light. After 3 weeks in Vermont, she had returned to Manhattan with a new resolve. Not to run, but to face her heart. Ryan Blackwood's handwritten letter, "You walked into the wrong room, but you were the right person," and his emotional press conference had shattered every doubt she once clung to. She no longer wanted to live in fear or confusion. She wanted to step boldly into love, into Ryan, and into a future she once didn't dare to dream. She wore a navy silk dress, her blonde hair loose around her shoulders, just like the night they met. In her hand was a simple note. "Meet me at Suite 1708, the Plaza, 8 p.m. Panit, EW." She had sent it to Ryan's office through his assistant Claire, along with a playful message. "Don't let me walk into the wrong room again." The elevator at the plaza chimed as she ascended, this time sober, this time sure, but with the same fluttering nerves in her chest. The hallway on the 17th floor was just as elegant as she remembered. Crimson carpets, glimmering chandeliers. Emily paused in front of Suite 1708 and took a deep breath. No wrong keys, no confusion, but her heart pounded like it did that very first night. She knocked, the door opened. There he stood, Ryan Blackwood, in a crisp white shirt with his sleeves rolled up, his ocean-deep eyes looking at her like she was the only thing that existed. "Emily," he said, his voice low and raw. The room was warm, familiar. Soft lighting spilled from the windows overlooking Manhattan. A bottle of whiskey sat on the glass table. The same sofa from that night waited beside the window, but this time there were new touches. White lilies on the table, and on the wall, a painting of a door with the number 1708, identical to the one she left behind in Vermont. Her voice trembled. "How did you get that painting?" Ryan stepped closer. "I contacted the Vermont Center. They said you left it behind. I thought it belonged here." He held her gaze. "Just like you." Emily's breath hitched. She looked around, overwhelmed by the intention in every detail. "You kept this room?" she asked. He nodded. "I rented it long-term because one girl walked into the wrong suite, and I never wanted her to feel lost again." She let out a shaky laugh, tears shining in her eyes. "You're ridiculous, Ryan Blackwood." He took another step, closing the gap between them. "I know," he said with a small smile, "but I'm hoping you'll find me bearable for life." Then he slowly knelt down. From his pocket, he pulled out a velvet box. Inside was a simple, glistening diamond ring. Emily gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. "The first time you walked into this room," he said, eyes gleaming with emotion, "I thought I was in trouble. Turns out the real trouble is, I can't live without you. Emily Walker, will you marry me? I can't promise you the world, but I promise I'll check the room number for you every single day." Emily laughed through tears. She looked down at this once cold billionaire, now bare-hearted in front of her. "You better put your name on the door," she choked out, "so I never make the same mistake." Ryan stood, slipped the ring on her finger, and kissed her, slow, sure, and deep. A kiss that erased every misunderstanding. A kiss that promised they would never run, never doubt again. They sat on the sofa, whiskey poured. "I was scared," Emily confessed, looking into his eyes. "Scared I'd become my mother, loving the wrong man." Ryan cupped her hand, his fingers brushing her earring. "You're not your mother, Emily, and I'll spend my life proving that to you." He grinned. "Even if I drive you crazy with coffee deliveries." She rolled her eyes, smiling. "Starbucks still hasn't forgiven you." 6 months later, under the warm spring sun of 2025, Emily and Ryan stood in a quiet garden in Central Park. Their wedding was intimate, family, close friends, a soft jazz band playing in the background. Emily wore a flowing white silk gown, her silver earrings twinkling in the light. Ryan couldn't take his eyes off her. Mia, her maid of honor, leaned over during the ceremony and whispered, "Told you you'd marry a billionaire. Next time, check the door first." Emily stifled a laugh and elbowed her. The ceremony was filled with laughter, tears, and sweet chaos. Ryan spilled a glass of champagne mid-toast, prompting Emily to tease, "You're still as clumsy as I was that night." They danced beneath lanterns, and when the music faded, Ryan whispered, "You walked into the wrong room, but you found the right man." After the wedding, they returned to Suite 1708 for their honeymoon. The room remained unchanged, whiskey, the sofa, the painting of the door. Emily curled into Ryan's side, gazing out at the skyline. "You know," she said, "I used to think Suite 1708 was the biggest mistake of my life." Ryan kissed her forehead. "And I've always thought it was the doorway that led me to you." 1 year later, they lived in a Tribeca loft. Emily had opened her own art gallery, balancing creative direction with her love for painting. Ryan continued to lead Blackwood Tech, but every night he came home, with a coffee cup in hand, scribbled with things like, "Room number double-checked, Mrs. Blackwood?" Emily would roll her eyes, but kept each note in a wooden box, next to her silver earrings. They visited Suite 1708 now and then, not to relive the past, but to remember how a mistake could lead to something perfect. One night, standing outside the door, Emily asked, "Are you really going to keep this room forever?" Ryan wrapped his arms around her, whispering, "Only until I'm sure you won't mistake your husband again." She laughed, punched his chest lightly, and they stepped inside, hand in hand. The place where it all began, and where love with no more confusion would continue forever.